Welcome to my YouTube channel. On this channel, I discuss the solutions to Africa's problems. Everything on this channel is about how self-transformation by you and I is what will lead to the solutions for Africa. Today's video is video number 7 in the Red Pill Africa video series. I will be discussing about the error from our tribal ancestors that has caused all the problems we have in the modern world. Without wasting time, let's get started. The error from our past tribal ancestors is the first idea within the EDISAC Framework. We know that for thousands of years, ancient Africa had great states and civilization. All these flourished mainly in the Nile Valley, which is the area between the Great Lakes and the Nile Delta. For thousands of years, states or civilizations such as ancient Ethiopia, which is present-day Sudan, and others such as Kush, Napata, Nubia, and of course Kemet, which the Greeks called Egypt, all flourished for thousands of years, as far back as 8,000, but there is consensus that they reached their climax between 5,000 and 2,000 years BC. After thousands of years in existence, they eventually grew old and weak, and they collapsed, partly due to invasions from outsiders, but largely due to internal decay. After the collapse of the ancient African civilizations at the hands of foreigners, besides the discretions of ancient history and massacres or genocides of people, many of the natives also scattered beyond the Nile Valley to go to the west, south, and east of the continent. After centuries, many of these natives lost civilizations and turned into tribal peoples. By tribal, I mean a state of existence without a strong, robust state and also without a writing culture. The error of our tribal African ancestors is that they failed to create an African knowledge tower. A knowledge tower is the written down cumulative collective knowledge that a group of people have within their civilization, and from generation to generation people reference it, learn from it, and add to it. By the time the Arabs invaded Africa in the 7th century, and later on by the time the Europeans came starting in the 15th century, there was a big civilizational gap between we, the native Africans, and the outsiders, hence the easy conquest or colonization. Up to today, the civilizational gap exists, and it seems we Africans are not tuned or geared up to closing this civilizational gap. We modern Africans have inherited this error from our tribal ancestors, and whenever we exhibit its tribal psychologies in relation to non-Africans, we are at a disadvantage. That is why when you see Europeans, Chinese, and many non-Africans come to Africa and are able to easily dominate us in society, it is largely due to the ancestral error or a lack of a knowledge tower, because we have to rely on their systems in order to function. This is a typical difference between a tribal people and a post-tribal people. A knowledge tower versus no knowledge tower. In Africa, we perpetuate these tribal psychologies, which are a result of the era, mainly through two factors. The first one is having identities, tribal identities tied to totems, and two, having us to act in the world mainly because of tribal impulses. An identity based on a totem is a tribal belief system rooted deep within our subconsciousness, in which a person's identity is tied to an external object, usually a natural object such as an animal or bird, but it could be an artificial object too. Instead of self-consciousness defining one's soul and mind, the external totem replaces personal consciousness. Since an identity defined by totem will be transmitted orally by definition, this is one of the causes of the current situation in which we Africans end up being very weak in regard to how we identify ourselves, especially when faced with other foreign sources of identities that are based on written tradition. The written tradition ends up being more consequential than our oral traditions. This will explain why it's so easy for us to abandon our traditions and embrace European, Asian, or American propositions of identities, as long as they come to us through the written word. The tribal impulse is that urge or itch that makes us automatically act in the world, not based on personal choice, but rather by merely following tribal customs. Actions based on a tribal impulse deprive people of personal agents. And since a people without personal agents form a sort of herd or a group that can easily be controlled, manipulated, and dominated, no wonder those people who act based on a tribal impulse are easily controlled, manipulated, and dominated. The opposite of a tribal impulse is a nuanced, self-reflective decision-making mechanism. The people who are controlling and defining the world do it based on a very sophisticated decision-making mechanism that is way superior to the tribal impulse. As Africans, if we continue erroneously thinking that all the problems we have in the world or why we were colonized is mainly because of our race, skin color, or what outsiders did to our ancestors, we will continue complaining forever. However, if we own up and realize that all the bad things have happened to us mainly because of an ancestral error, then we shall have a chance and a responsibility to write history. In fact, what is your responsibility as a modern African to correct this ancestral error so that we can build original things that can build and define the modern African civilization? For those who have subscribed to the channel already, thank you very much. And if you are new to the channel, please click the subscription button or the notification button so you get notified when there are new videos. And definitely, if you like this video, like it and share within your network. Thank you.